Hello everyone, welcome back to another 10 underrated commander cards video. Just a reminder that when I do these videos, these are not rankings. These are just 10 cards that for any reason I feel are underrated and deserve to see some more play. Now I do like to go with themes every now and then, and I guess the theme for this video would be Time Spiral. So we're just going to look at the Time Spiral block and just look at what I believe are underrated cards. Some of these were not even reprinted in Time Spiral Remastered. So for that reason, I think it might be worth talking about these. The first one we have here is Bailstone Amulet, a 3-mana artifact from Future Sight. Whenever you play a spell, creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control this turn. Sometimes it's ostentatious to go unseen. This is a very weird ability. It's like a conditional hexproof. You have to play a spell first in order for your creatures to pretty much gain hexproof. That's what it means if your creatures can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. So it's pretty easy to do this. You just have to have a lot of instants, you have to have a lot of creatures that can flash into play. Maybe if you have something like a white mane lion, you can easily do this every single turn. If your opponents try to do something to your board, you just play something that you can easily recast. The next card here is Dust Elemental. This is another one that did not get reprinted from the set Planar Chaos. A 4-mana in white, 6/6 flash flying fear elemental. A lot of good keywords there. This is a very valuable card. Just alone, if you look at that in limited, you want to play that. However, when it comes into play, you do have to return 3 creatures you control to their owner's hand. That might seem like a drawback at first until you realize. For the same reason why you would enjoy using something like a white mane lion, Dust Elemental can also be useful. If you have a lot of creatures with good ETBs, you can take advantage of them later on. This fits in perfectly into something like a God Eternal Oketra deck, because you're going to be playing a lot of cheap, easy to cast creatures you're going to want to replay anyway. And you're not going to be sacrificing much of a board presence in that deck anyway, because you're going to be getting a lot of tokens. The next card we have here is Krovak's Ascendant Hero. So this is the only commander option I have in this video, and I think Krovak's makes a pretty underrated one in white. If you like Elesh Norn, well, Krovak's might fit in well into some kind of commander deck combination with Elesh Norn, where you just play a bunch of anthems and try to hurt your opponent's team by having some kind of negative anthem. But Krovak's here says that other white creatures get +1/+1 and non-white creatures get -1/-1. You can also pay 2 life. This is really why I like Krovak's. Return him to your hand. So he's got a pretty rare bounce ability, which in white you don't really see this. At the cost of life, of course, so it's not something you're going to want to do too much, but you can dodge removal, you can dodge board wipes. If you can get around paying a commander tax in white, you've already solved one of white's biggest weaknesses. And then we have Mystic Speculation. This card is perhaps the most underrated card in this whole video. It's one that also, like with Dust Elemental and Bailstone Amulet, did not get reprinted. But it's 1 blue mana for a sorcery with buyback 2. So if you pay the 2 mana, it resolves, you put it back into your hand. You get to scry 3, and that's really it. So if you want to pay 1 blue mana, you get to scry 3, which isn't too bad. It doesn't let you draw, so it's not exactly on par with something like a Ponder, but depending on the deck, it could be even more powerful. So if you can take advantage of scrying in any way, we have a commander option that will let you do that. It could be closer to becoming one of the better draw spells in the game real quickly. But that buyback means that worst case scenario, 3 mana to scry 3 is not really that bad, if you could just do it over and over again. And then we have Draining Welk. 6 mana, 1/1, flash flying illusion. When it enters the battlefield, you counter target spell and put X +1/+1 counters on Draining Welk, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. And while it's a lot of fun if you want to play more competitively, I think most people still prefer casual. It's a lot more laid back, and when you're playing casually, you don't have to worry about needing a free counter spell or a 2-mana counter spell, anything like that. You can have a 6-mana flash creature that can counter a spell. This is also beneficial for certain decks like Animar. If you don't want to play a lot of instants and sorceries, you have a creature way to answer certain problems. So just like you would use a creature to remove permanents, here you can use a creature to counter spells. And you can also fool around with +1/+1 counter decks too, so that's an added synergy. And then we have Sudden Spoiling. This is probably one of the more well-known cards, but I still think it's underrated. Split second, you have Black's answer to a difficult situation. Black has board wipes, but it doesn't really have an instant speed answer to a massive board. You usually have to wait before you can answer it at sorcery speed. At instant speed here and split second, so very, very limited ways that they can respond to it. Until end of turn, creatures target player controls will lose all abilities, and they will have base power and toughness 0-2, which means you can easily kill them off. They'll lose all of their abilities. The only thing they won't lose is something like +1/+1 counters, but this will mean that you can easily block and kill off your opponent's creatures. Such a useful card, and this is a big reason why Split Second is one of the most powerful things in the game. They're pretty much helpless to stop it. I think as far as Mono Black is concerned, to me it's a staple. I think the fact that it's not considered a staple to some people is the reason why it's underrated. It's a brilliant card. And then we have Curse of the Cabal. This is another card that didn't get reprinted, but I think it's fun for Commander. It's not overpowered. It's a suspend card, so you have those future synergies if we ever get more suspend. It's a whopping 10 mana, but you don't have to pay that, of course. You can just wait for the suspend. Target player sacrifices half the permanents he or she controls, rounded down. Now, if you have the mana, if it's late game, you don't have to wait. The suspend is only 2 turns, but still, if you have the 10 mana, just go ahead and do this. But for only 4 mana, you can put 2 time counters on it and it's suspended. So you can get it out there pretty early and it can put in some work. Because at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if Curse of the Cabal is suspended, that player may sacrifice a permanent. If he or she does, put 2 time counters on Curse of the Cabal. It may not be super powerful, but it's going to have a similar effect to something like Smokestack. While not being forced, each player's upkeep, they have to decide if they can trust you enough. If they can't trust you, they're going to sacrifice a permanent. So even if this isn't going to be resolving, it's still going to be political. You're going to know who your enemy is, because nobody wants to get hit by this, so you're going to know who your enemies are in a game. So at the very least, I think it's a fun political card. Definitely perfect in Commander, and I can understand why it didn't get reprinted. Not really something ideal for a draft set. And then we have another suspend card that did get reprinted, Greater Gargadon. Another 10 mana suspend card. These are pretty cool. You can suspend it for 1 red mana and put 10 time counters on it, but this is where it gets really good. It's a 9/7 beast. You know, it's alright in Commander, it's not going to really blow anyone's mind, but you can sacrifice an artifact, a creature, or a land to remove a time counter from Greater Gargadon. You can only do it while it's suspended, and you do have limited uses, of course, but it's a free sack outlet essentially. For 1 red mana, you put it out there, and you can just start sacrificing creatures. I think it's incredibly underrated for a lot of those newer red decks that care about graveyard synergies. So if you have a way to sacrifice artifacts, if you have a way to sacrifice lands even, it's very unique. And then we have Essence Warden. This is one that always blows my mind, because people will play Soul Warden. It's funny because they have the same kind of pose, just one's an elf and one's a human. They're the same exact card. Whenever another creature comes into play, you gain a life. It's just a difference in color, and that's it. Essence Warden does see some play in Commander, although in green decks, the focus isn't on gaining a life that often. So I can understand if it's not really the first thing on your mind, but you do have a green Soul Warden, and I know how good of a card Soul Warden is. So to not really see that much play because it's a different color is a little weird to me. I know it's a good card because it didn't get reprinted. In a draft set in Limited, this is apparently still pretty powerful. And then the final card here to talk about is Aspect of Mongoose, yet another card that did not get reprinted in Time Spiral Remastered. Aspect of Mongoose is a 2 mana enchantment aura. The enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities, and when Aspect of Mongoose is put into a graveyard from play, return it to its owner's hand. So you kind of get a Rancor here. You get another Rancor kind of card, where if it falls off and goes into the graveyard, you get to return it to your hand, or some auras even return back to play. It's just very good because most auras are one-time uses, unless you have other ways of bringing them back from the graveyard. The reason why I think Aspect of Mongoose is incredibly underrated is because it offers one of the best keywords for Commander. If you have a Voltron Commander, if you have any Commander that's really important for your strategy, and you're playing green, why not use Aspect of Mongoose? It is Shroud, so it might deter some people from using it. If you have equipments and other auras, you won't be able to use them. But if you're thinking about any kind of combo commander, and if you really need ways of protecting them, And if your deck is kinda deficient in ways of protecting your commander, here's a pretty underrated card that not many people know about. So anyway, that's gonna do it for the video. Let me know what you think about these 10 underrated commander cards. Had a lot of fun looking through a lot of the cards that still didn't get reprinted. It's amazing. If you liked the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future ones. Also leave a comment, hit the like button. Let's talk about this. Void here signing off. See you all next time.